high-profile COVID-19 death and one of over 50,000 people we have lost in less than a year to this virus. Now, Friday marks 1 year since the first confirmed diagnosis of COVID-19 in South Africa. A year on, the losses have touched almost every community, almost every family. Let's speak now to Professor Salim Abdool Karim, co-chair of the COVID-19 Ministerial Advisory Committee. Prof, good evening, and thank you so much for your time. You know, Karima's death, it's a very public reminder that this virus is not done with us, and it's a reminder that we cannot let up being vigilant. But as a scientist, you know, we've spoken so often about the health issues, but let's talk for a moment about the enormous spiritual and emotional toll that this virus has taken on our nation in the past year.
Yes, good evening, Sally, and good evening to the viewers. I'd like to start by conveying my deepest condolences. I've been interviewed a few times by Karima. She was the consummate professional. My deepest sympathies to Zain, the eNCA community, and in fact, all of the people in the media who we all know her for her hard-hitting approach, but always fair and just and seeking the truth. I want to use her passing as just an example of how we are touched and how this virus is getting to the very root of our psyche. The way it has impacted mental health on a large scale by almost every family, every individual being touched. Either we know someone in our families, among our friends, among our community who we have lost. That takes its toll. It takes its toll not just on the individuals, but it takes its toll on us as a nation. And that's something we have to work with, and that's something we have to continually strive to overcome as we try to rebuild our lives as we pass the second wave. We can only hope that it has helped build resilience, but that in the process, the way in which we approach these diseases is not just to look at it as a cold virus, but to remember the warmth of the people we have lost.
That is a beautiful tribute, and thank you for that. And her death comes at an interesting time in the sense that we are through the second wave. Just on Sunday night rather, we were told by the President we could move to level 1. We know that life has to continue. We know that we have to live around this virus. Karima was extraordinarily careful, practicing all the right protocols, yet sadly still she caught the virus. From what we understand, she had to take a business flight. It might have happened at that point. But coming at this time, it is a reminder, isn't it, that we simply cannot breathe a sigh of relief yet.
You're so right, because unlike most other diseases, we are so interdependent on our risk in this virus. So it's not merely what we do, but it's what everybody else around us does. It's that fundamental interdependence is the basis on which we have to fight this disease. It's not something you can deal with on your own. And I think Karima and many of the other colleagues that I work with, who are very careful. I myself am very careful. But all it needs is somebody that you are interacting with, either at the shop or in the course of travel or whatever it is, that have not been as careful. And so when we talk about the way in which we got to deal with this disease, when we talk about the Ubuntu spirit that it has to conjure up in us, that you are safe when I am safe, and I am safe when you are safe, and that understanding of our interdependence is fundamental.
And of course, on Friday we mark exactly 1 year since our first case was confirmed, I think we probably know that there were unconfirmed cases already circulating, likely in parts of the Western Cape. But that was the first moment that a South African was identified in KwaZulu-Natal. What have we learnt this past year? And you were quoted early in the day saying it feels like 12 years, not 12 months for you. But what have we learnt this past year that we need to keep in mind as we go into a second year of this virus?
You know, there are many lessons to take away. I'll just highlight 3 of them. The first, for me, was the importance of taking the disease seriously. I've been through other epidemics where we didn't take it as seriously. But in this particular instance, we took it seriously, we acted decisively, and we made decisions that were unpopular. And they needed to be made, and they needed to be made bravely. And that was really important because, as Neil Ferguson has shown in the UK, a week later, and that doubled the number of deaths. So a 1-week delay in their lockdown cost them heavily. But we were fortunate. Our leadership was willing to make those difficult decisions. Second is I've been amazed at how much of communication there is. I mean, I've been involved in many other epidemics. Nowhere do you get a daily press release telling you about the number of cases, telling you about new variants, and, you know, national television press briefings. I've never seen science communicated in this kind of way, in the transparency, in the openness and the communication that I've seen. Now, we can always do better, but what we are seeing is quite amazing. And the third, I have just marveled at South Africa. You know, we can do anything. We can move mountains if, you know, we put our minds to it. I just marveled at how within 6 weeks we converted the Western Cape, the Cape Town International Convention Center into an 800-bed hospital with oxygen at every bed. How DeFi, that normally makes our fridges and our stoves, was converted to making ventilators for us. In the second wave, when you saw all those deliveries of CPAPs, they were made by DeFi, amongst others. I've just seen so many people come out and support people in hardship. I saw a solidarity fund. I've just been amazed at how we can work together to help each other.
I have to ask you about your experience of receiving the vaccine. You've said to us a number of times on the show that you would wait in line when it was your turn, and it was your turn this Thursday. You said it didn't hurt, and so obviously, you know, there must be an enormous sense of relief that you are now building up the immunity and hopefully less at risk. How concerned are you that we will not vaccinate enough people before the end of the year, before even midway through this year, when that third wave is going to hit?
I think as it's going right now, you have to start this kind of huge program small because we've never done it before. We're not building on established systems. And when you're starting something from scratch, there's always hiccups. And you can't have, you know, a huge initiative starting up because the little hiccups become major snarl-ups then. So I think we were right in starting with 17 sites. We now went from 17 to 49, and that's just going to continue to grow. I think if we continue the trajectory as the current rollout plan works, I think we should be okay. I'm anticipating that principally we will cover phase 1 and 2 individuals. And I think for me, part of why I took my vaccine today was also about showing people that it's a very safe and effective vaccine. It's something that I hope people will follow the example I have set, and that anyone who's hesitant, anyone who's concerned about this vaccine in any way, I took it myself, and I wouldn't take it unless I was pretty convinced. So I hope it goes in some small way to do exactly what you're saying, Sally, and that is to help us get everybody to come forward and take their vaccines when their time is ready.
I want to thank you so much for speaking to us this evening.